Hey, I'm Adam Jusko, and this is Adam Answers, where we answer the burning and not so burning questions of the day. In this video, did the HEROES Act pass? Yes. Does it mean a second stimulus check for you? Maybe. Before we talk about that, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already, and if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So earlier in the week, the House of Representatives, the Democrats in the House of Representatives, put together a 1,800 plus page bill called the HEROES Act that would offer a second stimulus check to all Americans, as well as many other things, extra money for essential workers, money for local cities. A lot of stuff going on in this bill. Today, they held a vote and it passed. So we now have a bill that has passed the House of Representatives. Does this mean that you are getting that second stimulus check? Well, you might get a second stimulus payment, but today's vote does not at all guarantee that. Today's vote was in the House, which is controlled by Democrats. The bill was written by Democrats, and basically they put through their own wish list on what they would want in a new stimulus package. Now, in order for it to actually become law, which is something oftentimes that the media sort of skips over in terms of, putting up these big headlines about an act being passed, it still would have to go to the Senate, and the Senate would either have to agree to it as written, or they would have to come up with a compromise, or the Senate could just say no outright. And if the Senate, does not pass it, and the Senate is controlled by Republicans, then it just dies. And so far, the Senate is against it. Mitch McConnell, who is the majority leader, has said that they want to take a pause from that first payment that already came out, see how things are going, especially as we're opening up society, and then talk about a new stimulus package. So there's maybe a little pressure on the Senate to do something with this now that it's passed the House, but there's certainly nothing here that would make you think that this is a done deal. Nevertheless, it is the closest we've come to a second payment. There have been other proposals out there. None of them have made it to the full House vote. So today's vote is significant because it does put that pressure on the Senate to at least do something with it, to respond in some way. So in the HEROES Act, in terms of the direct payment to Americans, it would be similar to the first Stimulus Act. $1,200 for individuals, $2,400 for married couples. Dependents would get $1,200 per dependent, up to 3 dependents. Well, the dependents wouldn't get it directly, their parents would get it. But anyway, if you had a family with 2 parents, 3 kids, you would be looking at a check potentially of $6,000. And that's where it would cap off. After 3 children, there wouldn't be any further money for them. But a substantial payment potentially, and there are many other things in this bill as well. Now, I'm not going to go too far into what those other pieces are that could happen, because until this becomes a law, we have to assume that many of them are simply going to be slashed. But there is money in there for essential workers, extra money hazard pay. There is an extension of unemployment, the maximum length of time there. There's money for cities that have been hit hard by the coronavirus. There are many other pieces here too, student loan forgiveness to a certain extent, and a lot of other things happening as well. So this really has been a Democratic wish list. What are all the things that we would love to see happen if we could have them? And that's really the big thing. If we could have them. They probably aren't going to have most of them, if any of them, if we can even get to a second stimulus agreement here that gets signed into law. But that's where we're at. The House has passed the HEROES Act, and now it goes to the Senate, and we'll see if they decide to do anything at all with it. Just a quick reiteration, if you ever see an article or a TV promo or something that makes a big deal about something being passed in the House, you should always think to yourself that does not mean that it is a law. They make such a big deal sometimes of passing something in the House, acting as if it is a law, and it is not. So there's almost always going to be a change from the time something comes out of the House and goes to the Senate and gets passed into law, and many times it never gets there. So that's it. You might be getting a second stimulus payment, but today's vote in the House does not guarantee that. So we will keep on top of what is going on with this HEROES Act and see if the Senate does anything with it. But until then, I will ask you to please subscribe so you can know if we have more videos on that, and otherwise we will see you again soon.